Okay, so welcome to this webinar, I guess, promoting math discourse in a blended learning environment. Um, my name is Dwayne Slobodnik, and what I'm going to do today is go through some important things about math discourse. And also, please bear with me. This is a whole new platform using this. And trying to see how it goes and how we can still interact as much as possible. Because I feel that's a very important thing for us to be doing, and that's a great way for math discourse to actually happen is through interactions. And if you hear dogs barking in the background, I really do apologize. I have a couple of Portuguese water dogs here. So anyway, let's get started. Also on the top right-hand corner, there is accessibility for captions and size of font and things like that if you want to use that. And also use your chat anytime that you want to communicate. And there will be some opportunities where I'm going to ask you to throw something in the chat column. So anyway, let's get started. I'm a math coach with the HRCE, and I'm going into my third year doing this. And it's been a lot of fun and a little bit of challenge over this last year because of COVID. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how we can still get activities and games going inside our class, even if we still need to have some social distancing come this fall. So this session will focus on the following questions. What is math discourse? What are the benefits of math discourse? What are some practical ways to encourage math discourse? And what are some resources and tools to help make math discourse more engaging, both in the classroom and online, and of course, even outside? So first thing we should do is just so we have a good idea of what math discourse is simply it is the mathematical communication that occurs in the classroom or virtual classroom or wherever you may be discussing it. Now, of course, it might look different depending on what you're teaching and the grade level that you're teaching. But for the start here, how do you promote math discourse in your classroom? It would be great if you could maybe throw in a phrase or sentence into the chat right now, and we can just take a look at that and talk a little bit more about math discourse. Just seeing if anyone wants to put anything in the chat at all. No pressure. Oh, Jill Snow wrote number of the day, calendar. Yeah, a lot of calendar talk, especially depending on the age group. Michelle says, I do data talks, or which one doesn't belong? Great, since most of my students are working on the different levels of math at any given time. Jill wrote back, WODB, which is which one doesn't belong, which is neat because we're actually going to do one of those today as well. Okay, so we'll get moving on. So what is math discourse? If we look at some of the things in a deeper look at it, we can see that it has purposeful exchange of ideas, verbal, visual, and written communication, opportunities to share ideas and clarify understandings. That's a big one. Construction of convincing arguments, figuring out why and how things work. The why is important. And developing mathematical language. This, I would say, can be a bit of a difficult one, especially when, like at the different grade levels, we would have introducing new vocabulary and mathematical terms. And if they don't have a lot of practice of it from primary on, then when they get up to like grade 3, 4, 5, and even 6, they might not have the words to describe it. And just learning that language and how it all connects is very important. And of course, seeing things from other perspectives. This is a very big one, and is why when we have a lot of kids and ourselves talking about math and the different strategies we use, then they can see like, oh, I didn't think of it that way, but that makes sense, I guess, and then it's kind of like that, looking at different people's strategies, and that's a big part of what we're going to talk about today. And this, of course, all comes from the NCTM. And the lot of great information here. So, of course, the benefits of math discourse, I don't think I really need to argue this point, but really it comes down to it encourages student interaction, addresses gaps in student understanding. So a lot of times you may or may not even know what a student knows until you talk to them and you go, oh yeah, I see how they don't have that concept down or something. And it might be just a quick 10-second, 15, 20-second conversation, or having the same conversation and realizing, oh, they have it. So it's a great way to really know what they know. And it helps students express mathematical concepts more deeply and precisely. So as they talk about it, they can actually get a better understanding of what they're talking about when they're doing it. And the last one, which I think is the most important one, it builds confidence. As a math coach, when I go into a classroom and the kids are kind of quiet, if they are, and then, I'm there for 5 weeks or so, and then after that, they're talking a lot more, they're sharing their ideas, they're feeling a lot more comfortable and confident about their mathematical understanding. And they're just able to express themselves more, and not just in math, probably any subject. So the more they get to express themselves, the better their understanding will be, but also that they'll be more confident and being able to even, argue their point and defend it if they have to. So setting up the classroom culture for discourse. Here's a few, but there's always more. Just creating that classroom culture based on respect and acceptance. And that, so it's a safe and risk-free environment. It's okay to make mistakes. In fact, mistakes are encouraged. That's how we learn. If you already know everything already, then I guess there's nothing else to learn, right? And students should feel very comfortable offering responses for discussion, questioning themselves and their peers, and in investigating new strategies. So if someone says something, they may or may not agree, but also they might disagree, but there's a respectful way of disagreeing with someone's idea or opinion, or maybe even adding to it once they get to see different people's perspectives. So some ways to promote discourse. Biggest one is providing many opportunities daily for students to talk. Number sense routines, number talks, small group and large group activities and games. Share time during the 3-part lesson. And some of you have already mentioned some of those, number of the day, or using which one doesn't belong. And then Michelle wrote again, I said, was it estimation 180? Yeah. It's a fun one, and they get to, because they got videos and everything. So it's very engaging. But giving those lots of time, lots of opportunities is very important. And there's a really almost systematic way of how you can bring in your number sense routines and number talks at the beginning of class, and then explicit lesson on what you want to talk about, get them off to do some work, individual group, small group, maybe even large group, sharing it, and then before you know it, your time's up, but there's been a lot of talk during that time in math. And using open-ended tasks and questions that encourage problem solving and promote creative strategies. Doing less of the rote procedural math and doing more of a quality over quantity, and giving them opportunities to have to talk and figure things out and problem solve. Using culturally relevant pedagogy, of course, giving students the chance to connect personal experiences to the math topics. Once we get to know our students, then we know maybe what they want to talk about or what they do in their daily lives at home or on the weekend, and you can incorporate that into math problems, or even if it's things they want to count or to talk about and share. And of course, using music, movement, and game style activities this one is a little bit more challenging this year because of movement restrictions and proximity to other students because of COVID-19. However, there are still some things that we could have done, even if we didn't. And when it's nice out getting outside and doing things like that, but we're gonna move forward and think about how kind of going back to normal and see what kind of things that we can do this coming fall. So what does a number talk look like? 5 to 15 minutes at the beginning of a class. Students are sharing defending strategies. All answers are recorded. This is important. So if you're facilitating it, as you can see, you can put this up here on a whiteboard and showing all the work and asking the student too, is this what you meant? And then making sure that what you're writing down is what they're thinking. Because a lot of times they go, no, it's not like that. It's a little bit different. So you just really want to give them, honor their strategy that they're doing. Give students collective reasoning about numbers, and students are building those connections to key conceptual ideas in mathematics. And as you are just facilitating and recording the student thinking, other students would be able to share their different strategies and make those connections and kind of see like, whoa, we had maybe a simple question like 52 plus 65, and there was like, 6, 7, 8 different ways of thinking about it or even recording it. Whereas here you see in the picture, they're all huddled around during this past year. Maybe they're at their seats, they're working on a piece of paper, even a whiteboard, and then sharing their ideas. Hopefully, it's nice to get back to the small little group in front of a easel sometimes. Another thing, of course, is looking at different strategies of how we can get children's work up on the board too. One thing I want to talk about is Flipgrid. If you haven't used it, we can use that here. It's a great, wonderful, and easy to use app for empowering the voice of your learners. Sometimes they, might be shy or whatever, but I found when students were using Flipgrid, they could express themselves quite easily, re-record if they make a mistake or want to change something. And then they also get to look at the responses of other students. And simply, instead of, maybe you're up front and they are doing their presentation, or sorry, you're up front and you're doing your presentation of like, here's a number talk, and what did you get? What are your strategies? You could kind of present it in using Flipgrid, and I'm going to show you an example of this. So in this situation, this is something we did last year, and we can look at this as kind of a call and response. So I can pose a question, and then the students can respond with their thinking. And see, I just hope this works well with the sound. And we'll just chat a little bit about it after. Okay, so there's my call out. How do you, what's 128 plus 383? And then I can have one of the students will explain to us how they did it and show it on a whiteboard and talk about it. Oh, I hear the sound is not coming through. Sorry about that. So what I'll just do is I'll just explain. So I'll just kind of explain what they're saying is that for a student here, I'm asking what's 128 plus 383. First student is showing how breaking it up into adding on 100 to 383, and then from there adding on the 20 from the 128, and then adding on the 8 at the end, giving 105. And then, sorry, 503. And then what David does next at the bottom here is he's breaking it up into easy to use parts, removing the ones, and then going back and just adding on the ones, the 3 plus 8, which is 11, after adding the tens and hundreds. So as you can see with this, if the sound was better, it'd be great. But with this, what you can do is be able to call out, have them respond. And when they do that, what you notice is that they can give you a lot of different strategies. And this would be something you just do in a normal classroom, even without Flipgrid. But I just wanted to show you that with Flipgrid, you can send out a video, they see it, they respond, and then there's a lot of conversation that way, and a lot of people get to share their ideas and be really flexible and comfortable with sharing their ideas. Not sure if anyone has used Flipgrid before. Of course, it can be used for a lot of different things. Another good tool to use, and it's just simply even for presentation purposes, would be to use Google Slides. It's a great application to present math topics and for differentiating questions, and it can create a lot of great discussions. So instead of assigning a ton of questions to students, it might be you just pose one big question or a couple questions, similar to how a number talk might be done. But you can, of course, add some visuals. So using slides to present and promote discourse, you might have on your big slide a pizza challenge. And I was at a school that a lot of students knew about Yeah Yeah's Pizza here in Dartmouth. So it is Yeah Yeah's Pizza has just made 24 pizzas for a party. Each pizza has 8 slices. 195 people are coming to the party. Is there enough pizza for everyone to get a slice? And how do you know? So with this, students were working individually or in pairs. It was their choice. And they could try to figure out do I have enough, will there be enough pizza? And while the kids are working and talking about this, you can go around and listen in and maybe chime in and ask some questions about what their strategy, what they're doing and how it's coming along. And I noticed that just from this one question that there was like 4, 5, 6 different ways that students are doing their work. And because of that, it allowed for so much conversation to happen because all the different strategies were being discussed. And what I simply did is I took pictures of their work while they were doing it. And then while my presentation is up on Google Slides, I just have my phone connected to like download to my drive. And then all those pictures I could just throw right up onto slides and then show the work. And here's a few of their pictures. So there was a lot of different possible strategies that they had. And with that, it was great because we could talk. Some top left there, I believe, is doing partial products. So this was like a grade 4 or 5 split class. Some were adding up 24 plus 24 and thinking about, if I have 8 pizzas, that number of pizzas then would be, or pieces would be how many they have, and they figured it out. Top right there is base 10 drawing, and the bottom right is someone was actually skip counting by 8. And they found that strategy a little tricky because, of course, they lost count. But then once we started talking about all these different strategies and sharing them with others, people were making some connections and starting to see that some strategies might be a little bit more efficient or easier to use than others. So just from one question alone, this might have been, 15 minutes of good working conversation. And the amount of learning and talk that happened is quite great. So another thing that we can use here, similarly to, put work up on or communicate on the board, we can do that whiteboards, paper, and have just an open oral discussion. Another thing I think a lot of teachers were using a lot was the Jamboard. So it could be used both in class, out of class. It's similar to the digital Post-its up on the wall. And what I want to do here, and I'm going to see if this can work, just for fun here, is I'm going to put in this one right here. I'm going to put in a link for the Jamboard, and you can click on it and open it up, and we can see what, see if you guys can come up with some reasons to or not reasons, but ways to talk about this, which one doesn't belong. It is familiar to some of you, I think, and if not, all it is there's 4 numbers, and with these 4 numbers, there is many reasons why one of them doesn't belong. So for example, if you're looking at 17, 26, 44, and 65, you could say such and such a number doesn't belong because it is maybe an odd number or an even number, or it's greater than a number. So what would be great is if you could go to the Jamboard. I see, oh, Darlene's on there. So we got a few people on there. 17 doesn't belong because it's a prime number. All the rest are even, or not even, sorry, they're composite. So, and because they are divisible by other numbers other than itself and 1. 44 because the 2 digits are the same. Yeah. So what you'd notice with this is, depending on how much technology you have in your school or in your classroom, if it's a one-to-one or a small group, kids could work in small groups and do something like this. You could have multiple Jamboards as well. So, and I'm sure a lot of you know better about Jamboards than I do, because in class, I know a lot of teachers are using them quite a bit. But they're another way of engaging students in conversation and math discourse. So thanks for doing that. Yeah, 26 and 44 can be divided by 2, whereas 65, 17 can't. Good. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do with Jamboard as well. And you can bring in all the different math manipulatives as well. You could bring in pictures, and students can manipulate them. And the great thing about that is once all the work is done on the Jamboard and they're talking about it, it's presented right on your overhead and on your projector, and then great visual, a lot of good conversations. So I have another sheet here that or slide with a whole bunch of stuff that can be used. And what I am going to do right now quickly is to just going to put this in here. This is a link for this actual presentation. I'd like you to take it, have it, do it, whatever you want with it. But there are tons of links in here. So for example, here, this digital resources for math discourse, 3-act tasks, of course, which one doesn't belong? Estimation 180, other math challenges, all the retrieval practice grids for grade 3, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6. Would you rather? So lots of good stuff, and links are directed right there. And on the next page as well, more digital resources. Of course, I think a lot of you might know Steve Wyverney. He's got a great website. He's done a lot of wonderful work. He's created great things like SD Mysteries, which is a lot of fun, SD Clipboard and Splat, among many other things. But like SD Mystery on its own, depending on the grade level that you're working with, and you can look at the clues. But the way it's such a nice thing where kids are estimating, but then based on the clues, they have to figure out or get closer to the actual answer. If you're working with upper grades, they might be talking about multiples versus, you know, in lower elementary, it might just be greater than or less than certain numbers. Or when you skip count by 5, you land on the answer. So it's a great way to open up a class, math class, and get some kids excited about it. Normally when I've gone into classrooms, a lot of Steve stuff like SD Mysteries, SD Clipboard are always asked. Splat, we've actually gone from digital Splat to students playing the game itself. So they have the concept of there is a set number. You hide one of the parts. What's the missing part to get the total? Like for example, in here, the total 7, you see 3, so there must be 4 underneath. So the students, you know, this is great for like part total, and looking at things. And you could even do it with, you know, getting into grade 2 and grade 3, where it's not counters. You might be using parts of base 10 blocks. So you have maybe a number 50, and they see 35 3 rods and 5 small cubes. They have to figure out that there must be 15 hiding, and it's a great pair work game. So when you have time, if you have some time this summer, check out these resources. They're wonderful. Also, my information is on the presentation, so you can always ask, email me or whatever, contact me and ask questions if you have anything that you want to ask. Now, I wanted to show you one thing we're talking about is using some music and movement. I have the skip count song here, but I have a feeling you won't be able to hear it. But I will just play a few seconds of it at the beginning, because it is in closed caption, so you can actually read it. But after this, there are links for a bunch of different stuff for music to use in the classroom. So what I want you to do is, if you have time, again, check out some of these these links that are here for the music and videos. Scratch Garden I discovered last year, probably a few months in. It's a newer, I guess, company or whatever. And of course, you might know of some of these other ones like Jack Hartman, maybe Storybots or Number Rock, and that's another great one. So these are all linked as well to the YouTube channels there that they're from, and have a look because a lot of these songs are pretty good. I had a problem with Jack Hartman a little bit, and then I came back because I think he's getting a little bit cooler with some skip count songs. But when you put these on, especially even, and I mean, even talking like grade 6 students, some of the stuff, especially in Number Rock, they're requesting it when I come into the room or when their teacher's doing math, because some of the stuff is really spot on with the vocabulary and it's catchy. There's a great song by Number Rock is about digital or sorry, not digital, decimal counting and understanding decimals down to the thousandths. And like I said, Scratch Garden, some of the skip count, it's really simple. It's catchy. It's kind of cute. It's always in space or something like that, and the kids really like it. Another tool maybe that could be useful in the classroom is Go Noodle. I'm not sure if anyone uses that at all, but they have their own stuff that they use, or the videos that they have, and some of it would be for relaxation and meditation. But it's also a great place to house all the videos that you find that are useful on YouTube. So when you go into Go Noodle and you subscribe, it's really simple, it's easy, it's free, it's a great tool to use. It gets kids moving and all that stuff. But there's a YouTube channel section where you can actually just find a URL from a YouTube video that you like, say from Scratch Garden or Number Rock, Jack Hartman, whoever. And then you just put it in, and then all the videos that you want to use for, it doesn't have to be math, of course, but anything you want to use are housed in that one spot. And because of that, I think you can have 75 YouTube videos you can bring in. They're there in one spot. It's easy to use. And also, if you haven't used Go Noodle, what it does is every time you watch 10 videos, it kind of transforms your little creature or monster that you're using, and the kids love that too. So it's kind of a motivator to use these types of music and movements in the class, and the kids love it. So of course, talking about movement, group work, and games are, as mentioned earlier, is a very important way of engaging students, and getting them to do a lot of talk. So using movement around the classroom or outside, I have these things called walk and talks. And here on the left picture, you can see some students are outside walking around the school, and on the right, they're in the classroom. That picture, of course, taken 2 years ago before COVID, so that's why there's no masks on. But in the left one, they still have their masks on outside. And simply, what it is after doing maybe a lesson, it might have been, I think the one on the left might have been about area and perimeter, and the route side, and the questions will be, I think there was like 6-7 questions outside, and as they go around by themselves or in small groups with a clipboard and piece of paper, like a little marking, like a recording sheet, they're going around chatting about, oh, what did you do for this? This is what I'm thinking. So there's a lot of walking and movement and talking, and that's exactly what we want them to do. Now, these same questions could have been just posted up on, present them or get them out of a textbook or something. But what you can do is simply go into your curriculum guide and find that there's wonderful questions already made. You can maybe change them up if you want to, bring in some of the students' names or whatever, or on their topic of, do a little bit more culturally relevant pedagogy if it's about a certain topic that one of the students is in, and then bring those questions in, and then just blow them up a bit, cut them up, stick them on the walls, And then now they're moving around doing all the questions. If they get a couple done or all done, it doesn't matter. And then, sharing all the strategies that they did at the end. It's just another way of just getting the students more engaged. And the big thing is they're way more talking. You're facilitating, students are talking. And of course, looking at pair and small group activities and games can be a fun way to promote lots of math talk. There's a lot of wonderful activities where they're working in 2 or 3. Might even be a game just to practice some of the mental math that they were doing in class. Or get a big piece of chart paper and have them, give them an open-ended question that they're all working on differently. So again, they're the ones talking. You get to go in, listen into the conversations. If you have some target questions you have, that's a great time to go in and see what they're doing, get their understanding from it, and then having them share. And it's just great to see like all the talk that happens when they're doing this small group work. And of course, playing mental math games with movement allows for a more relaxed environment, and it fosters a natural math discourse. This game here is called 1, 2, 3 Show. Every student has a card. They flip their card and say 1, 2, 3 Show. They show their cards, and what they do with the card depends. It could be from just recognizing the card and the amount, subitizing if you're in primary, up to like addition, maybe subtraction, multiplication. In this scenario, I believe it's a red 6 and a red 10. We were getting up, this is grade 5, where they were doing double-digit multiplication, multiples of 10. We said the black cards are 1s, the red cards are 10s. So 60 times 10, or now would be 100, would be like, so then they would have to go to, that'd be like 6,000. So the answers could range from 1 all the way up to 10,000 when you do it like that. And with this, of course, they were switching cards at the end and then going find another person and keep on going for, a few 3-4 minutes. And with that, it allows them to do a lot of talking, and it's a wonderful way for them to do all the questions. And again, you get to go out around and listen. Of course, you get to play too. And what was really great about this is that instead of you're asking one question and one student's answering, you have like the whole classroom is getting in probably 10 to 15 questions of mental math. So, a lot of times I've noticed, like if you're using like say a textbook or something, they'll have all these questions at the beginning. They'll say, evaluate these. And it's like, well, why don't you get up and walk around and do that instead and have a lot more fun? Now, because of COVID last year, kids could not change cards, but they were still able to move and keep their distance, have their masks on. And all they did is they had their own little set of 5 or 10 cards, and they would just go through them and rotate. And then that way they kept their own cards, still got to play the game and walk around, or take it outside where you have a lot more space. So here's just a game. A quick game I wanted to share with you that seems very simple, but can promote a lot of math talk, whether you're in like primary grade 1 level. And it's called Race to 20 and Back. And all it was students having double 10 frames, counters, and a die to roll. And so they roll a die and place that number of counters on the double 10 frame. And this is the big part. The other player asks, how many do you have? How do you know? And of course, the player has to answer how many they have and how they know. It could be, oh, I have 10 because look, my 10 frame is full. And it's like, great, good understanding. Or let's say they have 9, and instead of them, they go, well, I counted. They might have gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Or looking for that understanding, they're like, oh, 1 out of my 10 frame is missing, so I must have 9 because 9 is 1 less than 10. And when you hear those conversations, you're just like, whoa, this is exactly what we want them to do. Then, of course, the other player goes, and then they go back and forth till they get to 20. And then when they get to 20, they can start going backwards to 0. Every player will promote, every turn will promote students asking and answering questions. And they were just constantly asking each other, how many do you have? How do you know? And it was really cute to see, little 5, 6-year-olds playing, and they're going, "How many do you have?" "Oh, really? How do you know?" And then they're actually having to share their their strategies with each other, and understand, actually really get a good understanding of how did they know. And it wasn't just like, "Oh, I know I have 15." It's like, "Oh, there's 10 and 5 more. That's 15." So they actually started talking about different strategies and understanding this. And I think at such a young age, it's really important that they have all this type of talk happening, because later on, when, especially I find in grade 5 and 6 that, there's more peer pressure in class and kids tend to get a little quieter. But if they have this background of sharing their strategies and feeling good about math talk at a younger age, it will have a better chance of carrying on as they get older. So virtual manipulatives is just something I wanted to share here. Again, all these links will be connected to all these pictures here. And these are wonderful tools, which of course can be used online if needed again. But also even in the classroom, these are some tools that are great. Like the Math Learning Center has wonderful shareable virtual manipulatives, such as geoboards. Like you could give, you could even give a link to kids for the geoboards. They could just play on it and work with it themselves. But you could actually send, it's almost like a class code. They punch that in. They'll get the exact picture that you've created, and then they can manipulate it and send it back to you and show you what they've done. Or just simply doing something like this, the number pieces or the base 10 blocks from the Math Learning Center is just a really easy way if you wanted just to show, say, base 10 up on your whiteboard, or present it from your projector. And with that, it's just a starting piece to talk, right? So you could say, "Oh, how many is that?" And then, you could put in 123. I have 1 flat, 2 rods, 3 small cubes, 3 units. And then maybe you could go to the next point is, well, let's see, let's build this now. So they could even use the real manipulatives, the concrete. And then, or you might say, "I showed you 123 and talk about it's the conventional way. Can you show it to me in a different way?" And then they'll be working with that, whether concretely, or you could use it like a virtual tool. But of course, it's the conversation and go, "What did you do? How did you make it different?" "Oh, now, I see you, you traded in, or you broke that flat into 10 rods. How can you do that?" "Oh, yeah, because 10 tens makes 100. And they're like, "Oh, okay." So you have all these great conversations happening just from one simple picture. So some virtual tools can be very helpful that way. So if you have time, again, check out some of the links. There is a lot of great things in there. And it's, if you can learn to use maybe, 1 or 2 or 3 things, it would be a great digital resource to have. But the other thing too is, if you have a smart board or a Mimeo board, these would all be, you can manipulate them right on your wherever you project it to, right on your whiteboard. So that'd be kind of a fun thing to do as well. So one of the biggest things here is just to mention is be that math discourse facilitator, right? So if we really think about what we need to do to make sure that we're getting a lot of math discourse in the classroom, is we want to make sure that kids have that time to talk, right? So you need to talk less so your students can talk more. Sometimes it's hard, I know, because we're always putting out fires and wanting to make sure, have some control in the classroom. But if we can kind of like get them to do more of the talking and be more student-led, and you're more of the facilitator, you'll start to see how, once they, get them into those routines and get them good at knowing this is what's expected, this is how we do it. And then the other one is quality over quantity. So go deeper into individual problems and give students time to share and discuss their strategies. So whether it's a number talk or number sense routine, or small group work, talking to each other, or they are sharing during share time or whatever, small group or large group, giving them that time to share. So, instead of doing like 10 questions, maybe they do 2 or 3, but then actually go over those questions with others and talk about their different strategies, and have those questions too, be more of problem solving and having to go deeper. So it's not just like, oh, I'm going to do this procedure, done, do this procedure, done. It's more like, oh, what do I have to do? How can I solve this? Is there more than one way? Is one way more efficient than another? So actually creating that environment that it's important to, see math as a way of being creative, and there isn't one size fits all to complete a task, or to strategies. And it's kind of like I always say to the kids, there's going to be, it's like a carpenter has all these tools to build a table. They might have a saw, hammer, nail, screwdriver, and all this, tape measure, but they need, some tools are better to use than others depending on the actual task at hand. So a lot of times I've noticed that you'll have a question pop up and they go, oh, it's addition. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to line it up vertically and just regroup, or whatever they'll say, and say the one goes up here. And sometimes without even really looking at the numbers being used or the question, there could have been a much faster, more efficient way of solving it. So that's why they need to hear all these different strategies from other students, and this share time throughout the day in math class, right? It's not just what'd you get for your answer. It's like, no, what did you do? How did you do it? Did anyone else do this? Do you agree with that? Is there a different way to do this? So, and posing those questions and getting them excited to share. And of course, just promoting that learning environment of discourse. So this came out a few years ago. It's called Let's Talk Math. It's a good little poster. So again, in this slideshow, you could take it and use it. I knew a teacher 2 years ago I worked with who kind of took this, and she was an artist, so she kind of made this huge chart paper size of these questions and kind of redid it this way in beautiful colors. And when you look at it, it is things like, what strategy did you use? What I heard you say was, or how do you know you're right? And a lot of times you might think these are teachers asking those questions, which they might be. However, it's great when you get students saying, wait a minute, what I heard you say was this. And then they might go, can you explain that to me? And then when they start talking like that, and students, they might be responding with things like, well, I agree, but, actually, I disagree with this point because, and having them learn that it is okay to agree or disagree, even if it's your best friend, right? So a lot of times there's not a lot of talk, and it's not about you're right, I'm wrong. It's just like, well, I think for this, I would do this. And so they need to have that conversation in a class where it is kind of an open forum, and they get to share a lot of their ideas and feel safe about it too, right? Because I find after, when if I'm in a classroom for, a month or so, and we have this learning environment where it is safe to make mistakes. And of course, when I do, I'm the first one to go, I did this wrong. I need your help. What should have I done? And when they see it as kind of just a learning process, they're okay to make mistakes, and they're okay to, say, yeah, I should have done this differently, or, next time I know now. And they just feel a lot more confident with what they're doing. So one other thing I just wanted to share here is just some online and at-home games and activities that I put together over the last year. I just want to add this to this slideshow here. And it's a bunch of things, whether it's like some math games, Greg Tang Math, Enrich, and a lot of great things that can be used. But these are not just like they have to be online or at home. It's just that these are more digital resources that could be used. For example, this is a good one here. This is from Math Playground, and it's missing numbers on a 100 chart. And with that, the students have to figure out where a number goes based on the other numbers they see. And then really it's them practicing and talking about 10 more, 10 less, 1 more, 1 less on a 100 chart, and finding the pathway to get from one number to another number. And I also want to show you this. Here's a link of some games that I actually put together. They're called online versions. They don't have to be online. You can print them off. In fact, that Race to 20 and Back is here. And there's a whole bunch of games practicing, 1 more, 1 less, 2 more, 2 less, doubles, some multiplication. And so these could really just be copied right into your drive, and you can use them to, 2 or 3 people can play on them at a time. So it's something just to check out. And here's just some references. If you are ever going to use some digital tools, make sure you check this e-learning support for each region. It says whether or not something is allowed to be used. For example, Class Dojo coming this school year, new school year, can no longer be used because of privacy issues. I loved using it before, but now you can't use it, even though it's a great way to communicate, and actually even similar to Flipgrid, you can make videos on it. But Flipgrid, of course, it's allowed, I think, throughout everywhere in Nova Scotia, but I'm not sure if CSAP can use it, the French board. So it's something to look into. And so that pretty much kind of wraps up this session. So if there are any questions, please feel free to ask now, or if not, that's okay, or ask later. I'm going to put the presentation link in here one more time, just to make sure everyone has it. And yeah, if you have a question, throw it into the chat, and I'll just sit here for a minute and wait to see if there's any questions. So if there's no questions, other than thanks, you're very welcome. I want to thank you for being here and participating, and want you guys to have a great summer. Again, you can open up my presentation, take a look at it, and if any of the links don't work, let me know as well. And follow on Twitter, all that kind of stuff. And hopefully everyone has a great rest of the summer, and starting off the new school year in a great way, and try to get that talk going in math class, and have as much fun as you can with it. And yeah, thanks a lot. Have a great day.